I've had a number of calls with larger companies in between sort of 10 to 100 million. And their biggest problem is that there's a disconnect between the marketing and the business. The senior leadership team don't understand marketing well enough. And then they're saying, why can't we just get more leads? And they're pushing sort of targets down to the marketers. And then the marketers are trying to do all they can to get more leads. And so typically they're under delivering on their MQL targets. And so the companies start bouncing from different agency to different agency. And then they're hiring a new CMO, and then they're going from thing to thing. And really the reason it's not working is that they don't have that holistic approach. It's almost like when you've got two people speaking different languages. You need someone who understands business and also understands marketing so can translate what the senior leadership team want.
Hello, David. Welcome back to another episode of Building in Public. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. The sun is shining here in London, so whenever that's happening, it's a good day.
Amazing. I'm in Portugal today and we have a really big storm heading our way. So I'm a little bit jealous of London weather. That doesn't happen often. Okay, so let's dive straight into it. We're midway through March, so we're nearing the end of our due dates for our big, hairy, audacious goal of signing 30 new sales in our first quarter. So let's just start with like a little recap on some of the results and how we're tracking.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're pretty much exactly on track, which is really great to see. In January, we had 7 new sales. And February, we had 12. And so that gets us to 19, if my maths is right. And then March so far, and we're recording this on the Wednesday, the 19th of March, we have 7, short of 8 sales. We're just not quite counting one yet. So let's call it 7 to be conservative, but it's probably going to be 8. Actually, I could say 9 because there's 2 I'm not quite counting, but let's just call it 7. So that gets us to 26. So if we have 4 more sales, then we'll hit our goal of 30 new sales for the quarter, which is really, really good to see. And what's the most pleasing thing for me is that our cost per lead and our cost per demo and our customer acquisition cost have stayed the same. And you wouldn't expect that. So if you increase your marketing spend, you don't necessarily expect the underlying metrics to stay the same. And that's really positive for me. It tells me that we've got quite a scalable model, and we could look to increase further if we chose to do that.
That's amazing. Wow. So can you tell me some of like the key learnings that you have experienced in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I've had a number of calls with larger companies in the last few weeks, and larger in my world is doing north of $10 million in annual revenue. So a couple of the companies I've spoken with have been between sort of 10 to 100 million, and that's actually a real sweet spot for us. If a business has found product market fit already, usually to get to, a couple of million or 10 million, you're good at what you do. You can't get there if you're not good at what you do and you have a track record and people are referring, their friends and network to you and so on. So often these businesses have a really good track record. And then what I'm noticing is there's a real disconnect between the business that's that size and then growing through marketing. So often they instinctively know that they need to have a marketing engine in order to grow. So whenever they get leads, they usually close them at a high percentage. So we're talking 30, 40, 50%. They're very good at what they do. They have great retention, like people stay with them for a long time. And their biggest problem is that they're just not getting enough high quality leads. People coming to them and wanting to work with them. So that's always the problem that they're trying to solve. And what I've noticed, and I've had this conversation with probably 5 or 6 companies in the last few weeks. So it's a really common situation. What I've noticed is that often what you have is a commercial leadership team. So maybe there's the founder, CEO, maybe you've got your chief operating officer, maybe you've got a chief revenue officer or something along those lines. They're sort of acting as the commercial side of the business, like the leadership team. And often what they've done is they've hired a marketing team. And what I'm noticing is there's, I don't know exactly how to articulate this yet, so this might come out in a weird way, but there's a disconnect between the marketing and the business. And so the senior leadership team don't understand marketing well enough to know how to actually put a go-to-market plan in place. And then the marketing team understand marketing really well, and they know sort of the marketing playbook, so to speak, but they don't understand how to tie marketing back to business outcomes and commercial results. And so whereas they would be great at executing a go-to-market that's already been built, what they can't do is build a go-to-market from scratch for this business. And so they get stuck in this cycle. And this is exactly the sort of business that we had in mind, by the way, when we launched B2B. Like, the headline on our website is "Stop Doing Marketing and Start Growing." And it really clearly captures this state that businesses can get in, because the leadership team are there saying, we need more leads. Why can't we just get more leads? And they're pushing sort of targets down to the marketers. And usually those are like MQL targets, get us more leads. And then the marketers are trying to do all they can to get more leads, but often it's very sort of short-termist thinking, and often it's not a holistic strategy. And so the messaging is not cohesive across the whole funnel, and often the channels are working in silos and so on and so forth. So typically they're under-delivering on their MQL targets, and you kind of get stuck in this cycle. And that, they've got budget for marketing, and so they're bouncing from different agency to different agency, and then they're hiring a new CMO, and then they're going from thing to thing. And really the reason it's not working is that they don't have that holistic approach. So their marketing's operating in silos, and there's nobody who can, it's almost like when you've got two people speaking different languages, there's no one who can translate the language of marketing into the language of business for the senior leadership team. And so often that's the bridge that we're building within these companies, is we're helping the marketing team understand how to tie their marketing back to business outcomes. And we're helping the senior leadership team understand how marketing really works in 2025. So that was a huge rant off the top of the head. Not sure if that's going to be clippable or not, but
just want to recap and tell me, because I'm always kind of in two minds. Do you do a content-led strategy, or do you let the strategy lead the content? And it's kind of like, who should take ownership and who should go first? Like, how would you fix a business that you could, if you have like clients and you can see that they are falling into this trap of operating in silos, not one clear, cohesive strategy, and lots of people doing lots of little things that aren't, how would you fix it?
Great question. So I think that step one is you have to have a unified market message and a unified point of view. And you have to decide as a leadership team, including marketing, what is your unique point of view? So it's not necessarily what are your unique selling points. It's what is your point of view on the problem that you're solving and how it can be solved. That is probably the most important thing. If everyone's on the same page with that, then it becomes a lot easier to build out, for example, the content that you want to create. Let's just say you want to use LinkedIn content. That becomes a lot easier because you have your point of view. And so you're just speaking from your point of view. And then let's say you want to produce landing pages and marketing assets at the bottom of your marketing funnel. It becomes a lot easier to produce those because you know what your point of view is. And so that is a huge win from the very start, is let's all get on the same page of what is the message that we want to share with the marketplace. Again, this is not why are we the best provider in the market? It's what is the unique message that we want to share with the marketplace. So that's step one. And then step two is to build a holistic go-to-market around that message. So for example, I'll speak in generalizations here. Most B2B companies, the best channels for them to use are going to be Google and LinkedIn, and the combination of them both. That's typically a good starting point, right? So you know what your market message is. You've made that clear on your website and on your bottom of funnel. if you are running Google ads, you should combine your LinkedIn ads approach with your Google ads approach. So what I see a lot of people doing is they're running sort of lead gen style ads with Google. And then they're also running lead gen style ads with LinkedIn. And there's no sort of cross pollination. So there's no like retargeting on LinkedIn of people that come and find you on Google or vice versa. So the first thing is unified market message. Second thing is holistic go-to-market strategy that combines your marketing channels, and each channel makes the other channels better rather than working in silos.
I think something else that you said there is stop focusing on MQLs. Stop setting targets for leads and start setting targets for conversions and revenue.
Yeah, exactly. And leads are not bad. They can be a good leading indicator, pardon the pun, but leads don't mean revenue. So they have to be the right leads. And that's really the other piece. And we talk about this a lot, which is that 9 times out of 10, these businesses are spending 90 to 100% of their marketing budget and resources on trying to generate leads. And they're not really doing anything to build their brand and kind of build demand for the future. So they're just focused on, and this is partly the problem with the way that the dynamic is set up, because you've got the leadership team who are targeting the marketing teams on how many MQLs have you generated this month. It's very hard for them to lift their head up and start thinking about how do I feed myself 6 months from now by building our brand. So I can see why companies get into this position. It's not, I'm not criticizing, but it is something that I see really consistently.
I think we've seen it with a few clients as well. Like month 1, they're like, we're the leads. And we're like, no, that's not the approach. That's not what we're trying to do. They come to month 3 when they start getting super high quality inbound messages on LinkedIn of people going, oh, I've been looking at your content, really resonating with me. That's kind of what this demand gen approach is trying to achieve.
Totally. That's the great thing about inbound.
Amazing. And who should lead that? Is it the head of marketing? Is it the leadership team? Is it the head of sales? It's like who? Like I'm a strong believer that you need someone kind of driving the ship. And
I agree.
We see people working in silos all the time across different organizations, across different industries. Is there one person that should be leading it? Like who in the organization is that person?
I think you do need someone. You need that translator, don't you?
Yes. Exactly.
You need someone who understands business and so can form part of the senior leadership team, and also understands marketing, so can translate what the senior leadership team want into what marketing activities should we do this week. I think that's what you need. Either you need to hire someone full time on your team, or you need an external or you need an external partner who can do that for you. And it's really interesting because we're fulfilling that role with quite a lot of companies at the moment. So it's just a very common problem. But you need that translator. I think that's a good word. I might start using that in moving forward.
Do you have like a guideline in terms of timeframes of how long it would take to implement this kind of a strategy to start seeing results?
Yeah, it's a big change in philosophy. I think that's something that people don't quite get their head around. Like if you're a business that's doing £10 million a year or £50 million a year, it's like an oil tanker. It takes quite a lot of energy to change direction. So, I mean, the interesting thing is some people see results really quickly. So we've worked with partners where they've seen results within a few weeks. We've helped them build out some assets and a bit of kind of top of funnel content, and they've seen results really quickly. More often than not, you should allocate 3 to 6 months to see an impact from a big change in your marketing strategy like this. If you're not prepared to commit 6 months to it, then it's probably not worth trying. But if it's a choice between that or just keeping doing what you're doing, which isn't working, it's not really, there's no other options really.
Or it is working, but it's not sustainable.
Totally. And And there are quick wins as well to be had. So we're not saying that you can't get those quick wins. The ideal strategy involves short-term quick wins, and then longer-term kind of what are we doing in the first 90 days to get results, and then what can we do 6 to 12 months from now. That really helps marketing teams as well. I've noticed I've spoken with quite a lot of marketing managers recently who it's tough for them because they're under a lot of pressure from the senior leadership team. And so they need to prove some sort of ROI quickly. And then that really helps them, because if they can get a little bit of ROI or some sort of value early on in a campaign like this, then it allows them to it buys them more time to keep running the tests and finding that market resonance.
Can you give me an example of these like quick wins or low hanging fruit?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It depends business by business. The most common ones are going to be if you're doing SEO and Google ads and you're not doing retargeting on Google or LinkedIn, that's a really common quick win. And that often leads to results quickly. Because you're spending time, energy, and money to get people to your website with your SEO and Google activities. And then if they don't convert, they forget about you. And that's most people. So that can often be a really quick win. For most B2B companies, Google Ads is the quickest way to get results because it's bottom of funnel. People are often problem aware. Often they're problem aware and solution aware, and they're looking to solve the problem. That's not a good fit for everyone because it can be incredibly competitive. So sometimes you just can't compete with the other players who are bidding for those keywords and trying to optimize around the same SEO. But those would probably be the two most obvious quick wins. Especially if, for example, if you're getting good results from SEO and you're not running Google Ads, then that's often a quick way to get wins. And then the other piece would be the retargeting probably.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So we don't do Google Ads.
Yeah.
Why? I know why, but I'm...
Why do you think we don't?
Because it's too competitive. The industry's too competitive.
I think that's an aspect.
Yes. I mean, one of our services is obviously SEO, and trying to rank on page 1 for SEO is extremely difficult and extremely expensive. And also, we get good enough results through LinkedIn. We don't need to go to Google. That would be my reasoning.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason. We just don't need to.
Yeah.
For the record, I mean, I'm quite a competitive person. I'm one of those like quietly competitive people. For the record, I think that if we wanted to, we could smash it with Google Ads if we wanted to. SEO probably not, because like you said, there's been people who have been around for 20 years, so it would take us so much time, and we'd have to build so much authority to our website that it just wouldn't be worth the effort. But with Google Ads, I think we could actually smash it because our positioning is quite different to your typical growth agency.
True.
So to be fair, we might look at that in the future. We've recently launched on YouTube as well, which I'm really bullish about YouTube for B2B companies. And so probably YouTube is the next one for us to sort of master. Right. And then we'll see where we go from there. But I think at the moment, yeah, we feel that we have a competitive advantage on platforms like LinkedIn. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, and the context that we have is quite interesting because we look at a lot of different campaigns, and we look at a lot of what we do is on LinkedIn naturally, and we look at a lot of different LinkedIn profiles. So we can see the profiles that are performing well and the ones that are not performing well. And what's really interesting, and we were talking about this before we went live, is that it's not what you expect. If you were looking from the outside, you would look at people on LinkedIn and you'd see people that are getting loads of reach, loads of engagement, loads of followers and impressions. And what we've noticed is that there almost isn't really a correlation at all between your impressions, engagement, or followers and how much money you're actually making from LinkedIn, which is very, very interesting. And I actually think in some cases, there's almost a correlation the other way. So posts that are getting more impression and engagement, in some ways are generating less leads and leading to less revenue. So it's really interesting to look at. I look at my profile, for example, my average post does not get a lot of reach. Maybe a couple of thousand impressions would be like a reasonably good post. I have 15,000 followers or something like that, which is bigger than some profiles, but certainly not the biggest by quite a long way. And we book, really consistent inbound calls from our LinkedIn profile. We do run ads as well, which is kind of the interesting quirk to this, but I think that's really interesting to see. And then I've looked at profiles, for example, that are getting loads more reach. On average, they're getting, 100 engagements per post and hundreds of thousands of impressions and so on. But they're coming to us to help them generate more revenue from LinkedIn. So really interesting to watch it happen. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but it's an interesting.
I remember we had a man on as a guest a few weeks ago, and he even spoke about it, that one of his clients had 700,000 impressions on a single post, and it didn't generate a single lead. It just goes to show. The way I think about it is obviously with the funnel, the marketing funnel. So we've got the top of the funnel, which is awareness, and that's kind of where these viral posts are sitting. But you've got to still work the customer through the funnel into consideration and then to conversion. And that's the tricky part, the conversion piece.
Yes, I think you're right. So would your view be that you need to devote at least some of your time, let's say it's 20, 30, 40% to those posts that are trying to get reach, and then the rest of your time you're devoting to the kind of authority building and maybe a little tiny bit to converting?
Exactly how I would see it. Yeah, nurturing that audience, retargeting, those viral impressions. So I do think that these viral posts are important, especially when it comes to audience expansion. I mean, we spoke about it. People need to see your posts. If no one's seeing them, you can't convert them. So those are great for that. But I think that there's this misconception that just because a post went viral, that now you're going to have like a bottomless supply of leads. But it really doesn't work like that.
That's my concern with it, is it going viral to the right people? I think that's the big problem, is that, yes, your post might have been seen by lots and lots of people, but are they people that you could work with? Are there people that would actually buy your stuff? And that's always my big concern. And this is why I love the paid ads approach, because I can guarantee that the people I want to see my content are seeing my content. And I think the interesting part as well is often the people that end up, converting and becoming leads and ultimately becoming customers, they've never engaged with my content. They've never liked or commented or anything like that. I mean, some people do, obviously, but for the most part, the people who are liking and commenting are usually other marketers.
Exactly.
Who don't need our help. So yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic. I think the difficult part is, how do you get more organic engagement to the right people rather than to the wrong audience?
I think also something that we've discussed quite heavily over the last few weeks is like engagement activity, having more genuine conversations with people that are engaging with your posts. And that's going to drive more conversions than posting content itself. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that that's something that, especially for our internal brand, that we do really, really well.
Yeah, it's a really good point. The way to think about LinkedIn is it's a little bit like networking. So I was talking to someone the other day about expos, where you go to a big expo, there's loads of people, maybe you have a stand and so on. What I was saying is that I wouldn't be sad if I never do that ever again in my life. I mean, they're not too bad, but I'm a bit too much of an introvert to do that on the regular. And so, sorry, that's a bit of a tangent. But the point being about LinkedIn is you think of it like networking. So really your content is kind of like an entryway point. Some people will see your content and then they'll take action on it. So if they really resonate with it, they might go to your website, review some of your information, and then potentially follow the conversion action that you have in mind. So they might book a call with you or book a demo or sign up for something. So those people are great, and we love those people. They tend to be highly qualified. And then there are quite a lot of people who really resonate with what you're saying, but for whatever reason, they're not going to take that that action yet. And so it can be really beneficial to start conversations with these people. Again, this is not in a salesy way. It's just striking up a conversation in a very similar way as you would at an expo or at a networking event. And we tend to find that a good proportion of the conversions from a platform like LinkedIn, I also believe Instagram is quite similar to this as well. They come from the sort of DMs, so to speak. And so you're having conversations with people, and then it makes sense to kind of take that next step and discuss what you can offer and so on.
That's so true. Yeah, very, very true. Well, that was such a great chat. In 2 weeks' time, we're going to be filming the recap of the quarter. So that will be where we really have to put our money where our mouth is and hope that we've reached our target of 13 new sales. How are you feeling with 2 weeks to go?
I think we'll hit it. Yeah, I see no reason why we won't hit it, which is great to see. So yeah, I mean, feeling good, to be honest. Can't complain.
I'll put the champagne on ice.
Yeah, let's just chill on that for a moment.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David. I look forward to our next chats. I'll see you for another episode in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Dace. Chat soon.